2021, I would have to say the modern woman is extremely deceptive, is extremely deceptive, is extremely deceptive, is extremely deceptive.
Wake your punk ass up.
Peace and Black Power, family. It's Amaja Way 2 coming to you again. Again, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Again, like, share, and subscribe. Remember, this is audio that is not necessarily meant for you to look at. It is meant for you to listen to. So while you're driving, while you're exercising, while you're working out in the yard, go ahead and put me in the Bluetooth. Go ahead and put me in the wireless earbuds. Let's go ahead and sign in for class. So what we're going to do our warrior class salute. Warrior class, Zoo, rise up. Warrior class, Zoo, speak up. Warrior class, Zoo, show up. Warrior class, Zoo, smoke them out. In today's topic, basically, it's really just the female trying to explain to other males how they should move, being younger males, being males in general. Oftentimes when you guys hear it coming from the males, you hear it as a form of an attack or a form of, well, not all of us, but we're saying the same message. And as you know before, my previous listeners, they know I talk about cowards. Coward talk, how to smoke them out, their behavioral patterns, and their talking points. So if they're in your environment, if you're in your family, if they're in your work environment, if they're in your football team, wherever they're at, and you can put your eyes on them, what you need to look at is the behavior pattern, how they move, what they do, and how they react to situations. If they're not immediately in front of you as far as proximity is concerned, but you can hear them over the phone, over the internet, over the YouTube, whatever, you need to listen to their talking points. What we, the warrior class, what we have not done is we have not done the work, behavioral analysis. What we haven't done is we haven't done the work, psychological analysis. So what happens is the enemy will lump us all in because we all look alike. In reality, we have different intentions. And what you, the warrior class, need to understand is that there's a certain group of males that are out here that are feeding off of our hard work, but they are not putting in the work. So they look like us, they act like us, they talk like us, but they're not putting in the work, but they're trying to receive all the benefit. You know, look at it this way. If I'm the one that's really willing to put in the work, I'm the one that's really willing to cross the line. If I'm willing to put in the work and I'm willing to cross the line, by default, you're going to pair up with me. You're going to team up with me so we can get this job done, get this job accomplished. However, if you are a weaker male, you've learned or you already know there's certain lines you're not going to cross. So if you're not going to cross that line, but I am, what you're going to do is you're going to ally yourself with me long enough to accomplish the goal. You're going to ally yourself with me long enough to accomplish the goal, but because your final destination or your true intention and or your ulterior motive is you're not going to do this and you're not going to do that. You're not going as far as me because you don't want the same result. And what happened is since they learned how to talk like us, act like us, move like us, we thought we had an ally. We thought we had a comrade. We thought we had someone that can get into the trenches with us. Little did we know that they were double agents. They were dual agents. And they were working with the terrorist society. And they moved against us. So we accomplished the goal, civil rights. We accomplished the goal, Emancipation Proclamation. We accomplished the goal. But we wanted total freedom. We wanted independent freedom. We wanted to be able to do whatever it is that we do like them, better than them. They did not want that. Same thing I said before. Everybody's saying when the slaves came out of slavery, not all of them wanted to be free. Some of them volunteered themselves to go back into voluntary servitude long enough to pay off the debt, which eventually turned into sharecropping. Some people do want to be controlled. Some people do believe being controlled is actually better because they just don't want to fight. They don't want to fight for their daily scraps. They don't want to fight for getting up and having to go to work every single morning like a robot, like clockwork. Some human beings do not want that. It is the same concept of being institutionalized. Once you spent a certain amount of time in lockup, and then all of a sudden you got to come out here in the real world. They call that process institutionalization. These names and these terminologies exist because of behavioral patterns and mindset. Yes, it is difficult to sit out here as a civilian, as a regular human being fighting for your scraps when in lockup someone else is providing you with 3 hots and a cot. It is very, very difficult to have to get up every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, prepare yourself, then go work in an environment where you don't like personalities, you don't have the structure, and you do not have the discipline, and you can come and go at your free will. It is very difficult to get up every day and spend a large amount of time from your family or from your desires, from your dreams, from doing things that you would normally do, but have to spend 40 hours or more at work. It is extremely difficult doing that on a day-to-day basis. So some individuals like, nah, man, I'd rather go to jail. I ain't got to do all this work. Living ain't that hard over there. So they would rather go back. That's also the same mindset of a slave. They would rather sit there on that plantation doing what master says, because at the end of the day, they do have something to eat. Master's going to provide them rations. At the end of the day, they do have somewhere to lay their head. Master is going to provide them a roof over their head. And the issues that we are facing as heterosexual black men in the year of 2021 is you have a slave class amongst us. You have a coward class, slave class amongst us. And it is easier in their mindset to leave things alone and let it be versus someone like myself coming out here shaking up the trees. And shaking up the trees. In this video that I'm about to play for you guys, it's a female pretty much explaining, like I said earlier, how women have manipulated the men to believe that the men are doing something manly, and where the men like myself are starting to explain to people that the men who co-sign these thoughts, the men that co-sign these behaviors, you are weaker males. I'm always going after the coward class. I'm always going after the weaker males. We are all telling you that you are all moving in a wrong direction, and you're causing the rest of our nation to suffer because you're too scared to fight. You're causing the rest of our nation to suffer because you're putting too much faith in Jesus Christ. You're causing the rest of our nation to suffer because you, the individual, you're not willing, nor are you prepared to do what you're supposed to do as a living human being in order to secure your child's future. There are certain things you are not supposed to do. Let's just not pretend that you can just run reckless and be wild. At the same time, there are specific things that you're not supposed to do. There are specific things that you are supposed to do so that you can yield the best result possible for the particular outcome that you want in regards to your friends, your family, your nation. I'm always explaining coward talk, coward behavior, always, 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 because the people are not able to detect who is and who isn't. And I am trying to develop a siphoning, a filter so we can speak the least amount of words. You ask the appropriate amount of questions, and you look for specific indicators, not anything, a specific indicator to see which one of the individuals you're talking to is going to measure up, is going to toe the line, is going to go the distance. Once you are able to figure out who is and who isn't, It shall allow you to make better choices in the politicians you choose, better choices in the mates you choose, because I have female listeners as well as male listeners. It allows you to make better choices, because at the end of the day, we have to move as a unit. One nation, one God, one destiny. And it doesn't matter specifically how we get there as long as we get there. We are not supposed to be going at this thing one way only. This is a universal struggle for the universal cause. One God, one nation, one destiny, one people. Anybody that disagrees, anybody that doesn't want a part of that, you don't have to try to convince them. We're not here to brainwash. We're here to simply ask the questions. Is you is or is you ain't? And if those individuals come out of their mouths with, I don't know what you mean. If those individuals come out of their mouth with what you talking about, if those individuals come out of their mouth with anything other than yes or no, that is your indicator, not an absolute. It's an indicator. I've been running around here on the internet, and I've been asking, polling, and getting as much information as I can to ask heterosexual black men, are you willing to pay the price, and are you willing to cross that line? Are you willing to establish a system, an organization, a code, a law, a creed, a something that protects heterosexual black men? Well, what do you mean by protect? What I mean by protect is black men need jobs. Black men need security. Black men need nutritional health. Black men need shelter when the enemy shows its fangs. Black men need a place of refuge. Black men need support systems. Black men need networks. Black men, heterosexual black males, they need specific things that caters to the heterosexual black male that is willing to pay the price and cross the line. At the same time, you can't forget the females. You cannot forget the females, because there are plenty of females out here doing the job, doing the work. They're carrying our water for us. And my goal with all of my content, with all of my videos, is to get the male in a position of understanding that he is slacking. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your physical requirements or your physical ailments. It doesn't matter where you're at whatever level you're at. What matters is once you hear what I'm saying, plus others, you will start to realize, yeah, you are coming in a little low. When it comes to stats, when it comes to teams, when it comes to statistics, you're really not measuring up. And my job is to get you to measure up. No, you don't have to be Michael Jordan. You don't have to be an exception to the rule. All you got to do is be better than what you are, and you're better than. All you got to do is be better than the standard. You're below the standard. And my goal is to encourage you. This is not hate speech. This is encouragement. I'm trying to awaken the warrior spirit. My message should be, my videos should technically be shared with every male in your radius. It isn't about whether or not they're willing to listen, because this is how knowledge works. You can give somebody the knowledge and they're not ready to hear it. But the goal is to give it to them. It isn't up to them to decide whether or not they get or don't get. It's up to them to decide to listen or not to listen. I force feed this information to as many people as possible. Hey, yo, why did you text me that? Just get it out there. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay, and leave it at that. Just get the information out there. Yeah, when you text me that, what did you mean by that? And I'll explain it in the text. I'll clarify in the text what I was getting at. But it's never hate. I'm telling you before, I don't like Christians, and I don't like scholars, and I really don't like your queen mother goddess individuals. It's not the individual I don't like. You need to specify. You need to keep this, when I make that statement, in context. It's not the human being I don't like. What I don't like about these personality types and these character types is they, in their minds, they have a stopping point. They, in their minds, they have a premature stopping point. They, in their minds, they have a premature fork in the road. They, in their minds, they have a point where they're a line where they're not going to cross. And that I call it premature because unfortunately, when you're doing the thing that I'm talking about and trying to get where we got to go, you really can't determine where your stopping point is, because the energy is going to take you wherever it take you for as long as the travel path or travel lane takes for you to get to where you got to go. If you got a job to do, if I keep saying a shed, I got to build that shed in the back. If you get the instructions and that instruction says it's going to take you about 3 weeks to build the shed, beginning to end, paint and all that, it is no guarantee that you at your skill level is going to do it in 3 weeks and do it correctly using every bolt and every washer and all can of paint. It might not at your skill level. It might take you the 4th week. It might take you the 6th month. It may take you longer, but your goal, your job, your requirement is you're supposed to work on that shed until that shed is completely and fully built. And you're not supposed to run from one job to the other job to the other job to the other job, doing a whole bunch of nothing. And at the end of 2 years, not one project is finished. You're supposed to work on one project at a time until it's full completion, no matter the duration of time. No matter the duration of time. No matter the duration of time. But keeping things in context. Time waits for no human being. You are running out of time. So if you want that shed built and you want to utilize that shed for the intended purpose of its building, you know, as an adult human being, as an adult male specifically, because that's the audience I'm trying to galvanize, you know you should have that shed up at least within a 1 month time period. That means you're going to get the spotlights, you're going to get the floodlights, you're going to get the car's headlights, you're going to get flashlights, you're going to get your cell phone light, and you're going to be out there as much as at night, as long as it takes when you come off your day job. That means when you come off your night job, you're going to come home, you're going to shower up, you're going to eat. And then you're going to take your tail outside and you're going to do as much work as you can in the dead of night for as long as you can, which also allows you the appropriate amount of time to go to sleep, to be able to go back to work the next day. That means what I am saying is you're going to always be working to begin, finish, and accomplish a task and a job until it is completely finished and in its entirety. You cannot do those things when the males are not measuring up. Black men are weak. And every time I keep trying to explain to my listening audiences what time it is, and you must remember, I'm on a social media platform. I know other human beings feel the way I feel. I know other males have heard what I've heard, and I know other males are trying to make the difference. So I'm not speaking in a matter to those that are trying to change and saying, hey, you're not changing enough. I'm not speaking to you guys. I'm speaking to the guys that claim they want something. You said you want something. And though whatever it is that you said that you want is going to cost you. And I'm asking you, are you willing to cross the line? And are you willing to pay the price for that, whatever it is that you want? And always keeping it in context. When you want that, whatever it is that you say you want, if it causes a hindrance to me and my nation, we're going to tax you. The issue is we're suffering. We're suffering because too many people are trying to do it the way that they want to do it. And unfortunately, as a heterosexual black male when the entire planet is against you. When I mean entire planet, I mean nations. I don't mean good Samaritans, and I don't mean individuals, and I don't mean anecdotes. When I'm talking about, even if you're interracial marriages, interracial couples, I'm not talking about that one good woman or that one good man. What I am speaking about specifically are nations. There is no nation on this planet coming to rescue African Americans, indigenous Africans, indigenous Americans, foundational blacks, or American descendants of slaves. There is nobody coming to rescue you. Every nation knows what America is doing to you. Every nation knows how America is mistreating you, but you don't have a refugee treaty with any other country. You don't have a refugee bill with any other country. Yes, we did think that Africa would open up their gates to allow us to repatriate. They cut that. They ain't doing that. So it is time that we stop looking for others to help us. Others want to exploit us. Others want to get what we have, but others are not trying to help us. So it is time that we help ourselves. And in this video I'm about to play, the lady is going to explain something I'm always trying to explain to the males. To the males, why are you in this position? And I said it before, you're weak. You're weak because your mamas made you weak. You're also weak. No, you're weak. You're weak because your mamas made you weak and your daddy let it. Your daddy let them do whatever it is that they did to us. They let them do it. Why did your fathers let this happen? Your fathers let this happen because he was weak. Well, how is your father weak? Because his mama made him weak. Well, why did the moms make the fathers weak? These are the two reasons why women make males weak. Not how they make them weak. I'm going to do another video of how. But I'm going to tell you why. The number one reason why black women are making their sons weak. The first reason is so she can control them. That's the first reason. The second reason is because she does not want him to go out there and get into a fight and then be killed. You got to go back to the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. And when I mean the beginning of the beginning of the beginning, even in Africa, when your children are going off to war, even in America and the Americas, when the men will go off to war, you have feuding tribes. If the boy was raised to follow in the footsteps of his father, then that means one or two things. Either the father is someday not going to come back off that battlefield, or the son someday is not going to come back off that battlefield. And what the women were doing is they were protecting their pain. No, they didn't want to be raped by the warring tribe. They don't want that. What they want is they don't want their sons to die. They're not really worried about their husbands. They're not really worried about the husbands. And I'm trying to get to this so I can zip it up and you can understand and it stays focused. These are the two people that loves men above everything else when it comes to the heterosexual male. Nobody's going to love that heterosexual male like their mother. No one. You can kill that. The second contender that has the capability of loving that male greater than the mother is the daughter. If you're not the daughter and you're not the father, you're not the daughter and you're not the mother, chances are the whoever you're paired up with can tolerate your loss, can tolerate your absence. But that daughter and that mother, it hurts them the absolute most in comparison of wife, mother, daughter. Sisters are automatically out unless that sister takes a stance of caregiver provider. If that sister has ever taken a stance of caregiver provider, then you know she falls in the banner of nurture. So she falls in a banner of motherhood. But that's not the same as actually giving birth to a child. The second one, sons. Nobody is going to love that mother like the father and like the son. So we can tolerate that loss. Husbands and brothers, we can tolerate that loss. But a son cannot tolerate that loss. And the father, but the father eventually will lose to the son, because the father is a male and he understands consciously, logically, that he's going to have to pass or give up a certain amount of love, a certain amount of care, a certain amount of protection. He understands that he's going to have to fall back. He's going to have to let her go. And typically when the father lets the daughter go, he's usually letting the daughter go to the new husband. So it's a barrier. He can't go that far. So he eventually stops. But the only one that continues that love of nurture is the son. Because now when that girl meets the husband, the husband takes over the father's out. And the next person that's going to love her more is going to be her offspring's son, if you guys understand what I'm saying. So you're weak because your mamas made you weak and your daddies let them. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to awaken the spirit. You guys have to wake up. You guys have to come out of that. And I don't really care your age. I talk to a lot of people and I love communicating with people. You have until you're put in that ground to redeem yourself. You have until you're put into that ground when the fight is over. As long as you're drawing breath, if you can't physically fight, you're supposed to deliver the truth, the uncut, raw, hard-hitting, heavy-hitting truth. And it doesn't matter how ugly it is. You're supposed to deliver the truth. If you can't go out here and fight, fist fight, shoot guns because you're old, you're decrepit, you're invalid, you're disabled, whatever the case may be, why you can't physically participate, you at least need to sit up here and find ways to teach. This is how you fight. And what I'm learning and noticing is a lot of males, you're just scared, man. You're scared. And I'm saying if you continue down this path, you're out. Not only are you out, you cannot. How are you going to get any grace from Allah? How are you going to get any grace from the Most High? How are you going to get any grace from Jesus Christ? Whatever it is you worship and praise. How are you going to get any grace when you're refusing to put in the necessary specific requirements to acquire the grace? Gentlemen, warrior class, Zoo, you have to rise. You either rise or you die, and you don't make any bones about it. You don't complain about it. You don't go out there and you get drunk and liquored and up. You don't get high. You don't make any bones about it. The option and the opportunity and the chance is now. Awaken. Marcus Garvey said, awaken, you mighty race. 1920, this man said, awaken, you mighty race. And I do quote a lot of things from Marcus Garvey. That's because that's the wave I'm on. That's because that's the lane I'm in. And the same thing I'm going to say to everybody that say it. If you say the right thing at the right time, it's golden, and I'm going to use it because it answers the question. Awaken, you mighty race. Let sister sit up here and say what she got to say. And I want all listeners to chime in the comments.
At 2021, I would have to say the modern woman is extremely deceptive. And I would say she's so intensely deceptive that she deceives herself first before she even deceives others. And that's the part that's really dangerous, because if you have a person that knows they're being deceptive, there's something you can do about that. But the modern day woman, she doesn't even know that she's being deceptive. We see this in many different examples of how deceptive they are. We obviously see that in you see the weaves and the makeup and the lashes. So one thing that I noticed in watching his show, that many of the women would call in, and without a doubt, they were giving themselves 9s and 10s. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he would look like he was shocked, but the thing of it is, these women, they truly believe this. And so that's where I'm going with the deception in a woman's mind. She lies to herself. These women believe this when they put on that fake hair and them lashes in their warped mind. They really truly believe that this is what they look like. And another way that I've noticed and that you see the evidence of this. I don't know if you've heard the concept of if I can remember the concept of a white standard of beauty. Have you heard that before? Okay. I'm going to ask you. I'll ask you a question. Who do you hear talking about the white standard of beauty?
Yo, anytime I hear people talking about Eurocentric ideas of beauty, it's always black people.
To be honest with you, I don't really hear black men talking about the white standard of beauty when you really think about it. First, you don't hear white women and white people saying that we are the standard of beauty. You don't hear them saying that. You know what I'm saying? You don't really hear black
you don't necessarily hear, you don't hear white people say, we're the standard. Yeah, I get where you're going. Yeah, that's true.
We're the
most
wonderful. You don't hear them saying that. And to be honest with you, I don't know that I've ever heard a man. Can I make one thing clear before we talk about there's a difference between a man and a beta simp? Two totally different things. I know. So when I'm saying man, I'm talking about a straight, normal, alpha, a man. I never hear a man talk about a white standard of beauty. This idea was something that was created by the black woman. This white standard of beauty. And the reason why they do that, because in the mind of a black woman, the white woman in her mind is the standard of beauty in her mind. You see what I'm saying?
It's reflected in some of our culture. I ain't gonna lie to you, especially with the fake hair. We want to cry cultural appropriation all day, right? And it's usually Black Twitter, and you know who's on Black Twitter. It's mostly black women. And this isn't, by the way, me and Naila, she is a black woman, and I'm married to a black woman. So this is not to attack black women, but we're going to talk about some of these tough topics because this is the truth. It is what it is. You want to talk about cultural appropriation, but you walking around with 21-inch blonde hair in your head.
Yaki, or whatever it's called, or whatever the different names are. But what I'm saying this is to say this: the black woman hollers about a white standard of beauty, but you're the only one that's saying that it's the standard. The black woman is saying that, and so in my belief, in my dealings with women and black women, I honestly believe that the black woman hates her own image.
Where do you think that comes from?
A lot of black women have learned this from their mothers. A lot of black women have learned this from their mothers. A lot of black women have learned this from their mothers, to hate themselves. And here is where I can kind of tell a little bit of my story and what happened to me. So I was born in 1977, and I could tell you that I didn't see what my full head of hair looked like until I was a grown adult. A lot of women in my age group knows this story. We know about the pressing comb, right? This is gonna get pretty deep. So in that day and age, like the 80s and 90s, it was a very bad thing to show your natural hair texture. And the reason why I'm saying this is from a woman, my father, he wanted all of us girls to have natural hair. He wanted our hair to be natural, but my mother insisted that our hair was constantly pressed and straightened. And this is how deep it gets.
Black men like natural hair. And when I speak to white guys that like black women, you them to be lighter skin. So I'm like, you like a white girl with a tan, is what it is. Because they say they want them lighter skin with straight hair. And that tends to be what white guys who date black women want, not what black men want. If I'm going off my anecdotal evidence, you know what I mean?
I'm going to say this, and again, we're kind of focusing on the nature of a woman. Here's the thing about a woman. Let's just say it's absolutely true that black women, dark skin, kinky hair, and as you see, I have kinky hair. Let's say that we are not the standard of beauty. Okay, let's say that is fact. We figured it out. We did tests. We are not the standard. But here's the thing about the mind of a woman, black, white, or any other race. We have seen dark-skinned black women, kinky-haired black women with husbands and children, right? Got a whole continent of them. The thing about the modern-day westernized woman, we don't just want one man. We want the attention of the men. Because if you are a dark-skinned woman and you're fit, you're friendly, you put a smile on the face, you can get a man, but that's not enough for us. We want to be the standard. And so
Right.
that's where the hatred in a black woman's heart for and the desire to be white is. We want to be the standard. We want all the men lusting after us. We're not happy with finding just that one man. We want them lusting after us. So that's why they want to put on the weave and all these crazy things, because we want to be lusted after. We're not satisfied with our one man that wants us. You see what I mean? What happened with our women and what's not happening with others, we didn't stick with our men. We were manipulated. The black woman, they took the government instead of their husbands. They chose the government and government assistance instead of being loyal to their husbands and the black community. That's what happened with us. I think the reason why it's so prevalent in our race is because our race is a matriarchy. We let the woman be the head. You know what I'm saying? That's a woman's state of mind. You know what I mean? To be vain and all these things, and we're letting the women lead, and so that's a problem. And that's why I say it is a problem within the black community, but because we have chosen to put the woman as the head, that's it right there. The men are doing what the women want. That's bad idea. Bad idea. You need to put women back in their place. You need to put women back in their place. You need to put women back in their place. You need to put women back in their place. Back in their place. Back in their place. Back in their place. Because that all of this is a woman's idea. That vanity, that's a female mindset. And unfortunately, that female mindset is pervasive in the black community. And that's why we need to have these talks, because we need to stop this. Because at the end of the day, it's killing us.
What are the effects of a man being raised by a single mother? Let's do that. Can we talk about that a little bit? How does single motherhood affect black children, black boys in particular?
Well, the thing about it is, before we even get into the black part of it, the data is already out. The facts are there. It's been stated. Children that are raised, I don't care what your race is. If you're raised in a single parent household, the probability of you going to prison, the probability of you committing suicide,
double, 2 times the chance of committing suicide. We got you're 2 times more likely. You're 2 times more likely to drop out of school.
Absolutely.
And for black girls, I mean, or you're about 3 times more likely to commit a violent crime. Yep. You're 30% more likely to not have a job at the age of 30. And for black girls, you're almost 3 times more likely to get pregnant before the age of 18. So then the cycle repeats itself.
Going to prison, all of the above, when you're raised by a single parent. But it affects us more. Our numbers are just higher. You know what I'm saying? When there is not a man there to create stability. And so that's why, you know, we're trying not to go off topic here, but that's why we're talking about the nature of a woman. A woman is not able to create the stability in a child the way a man can. It's been said before that pretty much a woman is useful for their children up until around about the age of 8. After that, it's absolutely good to have us there, of course, but after that, a man needs to take over, especially in the life of a male. If that father is not there, essentially what that boy child is going to do is he's going to take on the emotions of that female, that woman, because that's all he sees. A man child, a boy child needs to see his father every day. He needs to see how his father moves. He needs to see how his father walks, how he talks. He needs to see it on a daily basis. So in reality, our court systems are really terrible because it's set up for the woman. But in reality, it's the man, if anything, that should really get charge of the children after the age of 8, because it's the man that's going to create that stability. I'm very nervous because I'm about to say something that they're really not going to like right now. Okay, here we go. Women essentially, are like children, are like children, are like children, are like children, are like children. Women essentially are like children. Women essentially are like children. You've heard this, right? You know, when a plane's going down or a ship is sinking, what do they say? Women and children first. Essentially, women are like children and similar to dogs. But I'm gonna explain that. I'm gonna explain that. Children and your dogs, pets, need to be trained. If you do not train your children up right, And if you do not train your dog up right, what are they going to do? They're going to crap all over your house. And if you have a woman out here uncovered, untrained, unsubmissive, that's exactly what she does. She craps all over the house.
Gotcha, bitch.
A woman always has to have a male covering over her.
A man just has to kind of, you have to be coachable as a woman. You have to allow a man, you jumping on, you expect him to lead. So he has to be able to lead you and coach you to be what he needs to get y'all to the promised land.
A woman is supposed to go from her father's home, straight from her father's home and her father's covering, into her husband's home, into his covering, so she has consistent guidance. Unfortunately, what has happened in the Black community is our women are uncovered. A lot of times they were raised in a single family home. They've been around women, so there was no guidance there. And then she's out in the world. A lot of women don't want, at that point, they've never been raised with the guidance of a male father figure. And so now she's out here in this world and she doesn't know how to submit to the authority of a man. So essentially we have a bunch of women out here that are wild.
There's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this house.
And so you have a bunch of wild, uncovered, untrained, unsubmissive Black women running around here, and we can see the fruits of that. We can look at the Black community and see what happens when you put the women at the head. We have high crime rates, violent crime rates. We have high incarceration rates. We have high, we don't talk about this, but our abortion rates are extremely high. We've been at 13% since I was a kid. Our numbers should be way higher, but we have millions of our Black babies are in genocide. This is our women that are killing their babies. We have all of these different things. This is what it looks like when you put the women at the head. We are the only community that does this. No other community on this earth puts their women at the top but us. I don't hate Black women. I just believe that there is a place for a woman, and our place is amazing if we would take it. But somehow things have gotten flipped in our community where we put the women first. Back to your question, when you do have the woman raising the kids as a single mom and you don't have a father, what happens is the Black woman, she flips the roles. So what you see now, you see a lot of Black women out here being very masculine. So you have the women out here going for those degrees, going for these high jobs and going for this, being like the men. And then what do you have with the men? You have overly emotional men now. That's not a Black man. When you see these men out here hollering and yelling and screaming and like a woman, that's not the nature of a man. A lot of these young Black men, they think that being a man is being violent and out of control. Absolutely not. The nature of a man is control and domination over your emotions.
Oh
but
my
you
goodness!
Never saw that, and because here's what your mom did. Every time something didn't go her way, she kicked and had a fit, and she screamed and yelled, and it was emotional. So that's what the Black boy grew up seeing. So he doesn't know how to control his emotions.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. And this is what I always try to tell people. Any single mother, it doesn't even got to be Black, regardless, a single mother is going to coach a boy up to be what they wanted their man to be, or what they feel like they wanted their man to be. So they teach. Thank you. And so they teach these young men to be overly emotional. They don't teach them any responsibility. And then they wonder why they end up in prison, because when they got in trouble in school, you went and yelled at the principal instead of yelling at the boy.
Absolutely.
Instead of disciplining him and telling him where he was wrong, you went up to the school and you yelled at the principal, and that told the boy, I could do no wrong. So he kept doing mischievous things and getting away with it because his mama was there to protect him all the time.
Your baby. That's your baby. And see, that's a woman for you. And the thing about it is, there is a place for that. But when that woman does not have a man, because what a man will do, he'll step in and he'll check that. And he'll come and say, hey, what was my child doing? But your baby's been cutting up.
Right.
Bullying kids and stuff like that. You're not supposed to protect your baby then. You need to discipline. And so that's where a man is necessary. Right.
And that's why I always tell people too, when a father isn't appreciated until you're an adult. a lot of the times, because mom is there to bandage you up when you slip and fall. She's there because of the empathy, and this is a good thing. It's natural. It's a good thing, but you need the masculine energy to balance that out, because and a lot of times the men aren't respected until you get to a certain age and you realize, okay, when I did this wrong and my dad spanked me or whooped me or told me to go do my homework instead of going outside and being in the streets and this and that. You don't, at the moment, in the immediate moment, you feel like, oh, why is he doing this to me? Why is this happening to me? Why, but once you get older and you see everybody else lives falling apart and you realize, oh, my life is still intact because I followed the rules that my dad set in place when I was a child. Right. And my life is still intact because I followed the rules that my dad set in place when I was a child. Right. My life is still intact because I followed the rules that my dad set in place when I was a child. Right. And a lot of times that goes unappreciated until they're older, but it needs to be appreciated.
You know what I think it is? I think what it is, a woman's mind is very confused. A woman's mind is very confused. And so when we say, the man is the head, I mean, we understand this. Any company, there has to be one CEO, right? There has to be a CEO, and then you have different levels and different people. The problem with the woman, we think that because we're not the CEO, we're not the supervisor, we think that our role is less important. And it's not. Our role is just as important, but no, we're not the CEO, and that's okay. But what else do you expect from a female's mind? We don't understand logical things a lot of times because we base everything off of emotions. And so emotionally we feel, well, I want to be in front, I want to be the head, and da-da-da-da. And I get that, but our role is very important if we stay in it.
Right.
Right, but when we try to venture out and try to be like the man, that's when things tend to fall apart. So, like for the women, your role as a woman, not side by side with your men, not side by side with your husband, but he is the head over you. But your role is very essential. But when we aren't in our role, again, you see what happens. Again, the black woman envies the white woman. The black woman envies the white woman. The black woman envies the white woman. So that's why we took on their struggle. And look at us now because of that. The feminist movement was a white woman's movement. All women are the same. I'm not saying that we're the same. It's just it manifests itself differently. The white woman was not happy with her role, very unsatisfied, and so she created this feminist movement. Unfortunately, the black community were easily manipulated, and so we jumped on a movement and a battle that was not ours.
That's going on right now is we have black women fighting for everybody except for black people. Do you have any advice for a man trying to date black women in 2021?
Man, oh wow. The main thing for a man, especially a young man, is to focus on their goal. You focus on what you're trying to achieve in this life. And what you need to look for is a woman that's going to jump onto that. Unfortunately, because men are very visual, and sometimes because of this, the deception of women and the things that we do, sometimes you can kind of be thrown off. You know what I mean?
Hair, nails, and manipulation used to get
the boobs out, waist trainers, all these things. And it's very easy to get manipulated and almost, it's almost like voodoo sometimes, you know what I mean? Because the way that a woman can be. And that's all fine for fun and games. But when you're thinking about a woman on your team, all I can say is they will come to you. When you focus on what you're trying to do, they will come to you. And I really hope that men really hear this. One of the worst things that you can do as a man is to become a stepfather. What the women told you men, they said that when you get with us, that you're helping the community. And you're doing a good thing. You're helping that poor child that doesn't have a father. You're going to step in and you're going to be the father and you are just helping the community. Gentlemen, you are not helping the community when you sign up to be the father of these women's children. You are not. Here's why. Because what you did when you signed up to be a stepfather, what you did is you made it easy for women to leave their men. Because a woman knows I can leave my man. I cannot, I don't have to step with him because I know some beta simp is going to step in and pick up the pieces. That's what you're doing. Here's what happens. When you take on a woman that has another man's child, that woman will never fully respect you. She doesn't understand why she doesn't, but she doesn't. Because here's the thing, and I'm going to break it down for you. Now, the woman's mind, she's not breaking this down. All she knows is she can't respect this man. Here's what happens. Basically, what you're saying is this, that your seed, because the man carries the seed, right? Your seed is not good enough to produce your own legacy. So you're going to take on the legacy of another man and submit to this woman and build up another man's legacy. Now, the woman's mind doesn't fully grasp this, but all she knows is, I can't respect this man. For whatever reason, I just can't respect him. If you're a man and you respect your male authority, you want your seed to produce your own legacy. I need our black men to be built up. Your seed means something. Your seed means something, and you need your woman to respect that. A woman cannot respect you when you take on another man's seed. And we've all heard the story of lions. If a male lion takes over the pride, he's going to kill those cubs.
Gone. They're gone because that's.
And so, yes, the male lion doesn't understand that. It's instinctual, right? So even in us, there's certain things that are instinctual. We don't understand it, but it's instinct. So a woman knows, wow, this man done came in and took me and my kid and this other dude. Wow, I just can't respect this man. She doesn't understand it herself. But all she knows is I can't respect this man. And she's not going to give it to you. Because women are not being held accountable. 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 Held accountable. Held accountable. Accountable. That's the problem. So that's why you have so many women that are out here out of control, because y'all just aren't doing, well, I don't want my woman to be up in jail. I don't want her to do this. I don't want her to do that. Stop. Hold her accountable. You men do not deserve abuse. The fact of the matter is, a woman knows when she puts her hands on you, 9.999 times out of 10, y'all men can put some serious damage on a woman. But a woman's mind, we know that you're not going to do nothing. We have sunk into such a low depth that I have seen, like on social media, not my own personal life, but I have seen women threaten men. Hit me, hit me, hit me. Come on, hit me. Oh man, my heart really goes out to you men, because you men think it's honorable when you let a man, like you said, throw the drink in your face, hit you, punch you, scratch you, do all these things, and you just don't do anything. What needs to happen, what I pray happens, you need to start holding these women accountable. When a woman puts her hands on you, you call the authorities, and when you call the authorities, you let her sit in that cell. Because women are not being held accountable. That's the problem. So that's why you have so many women that are out here out of control. This is what I'm trying to really just put out there. A woman is not going to, I know y'all want us to get it. Here's the thing. God bless you, man. Y'all so want women to be logical, don't you? You guys want to
be
present,
nice.
You guys want to present the facts, the evidence, the data, and you want to show women the facts, and you want us to understand it's not going to happen. The facts, the evidence, the data, and you want to show women the facts, and you want us to understand it's not going to happen. The facts, the evidence, the data, and you want to show women the facts, and you want us to understand it's not going to happen. The facts, the evidence, the data, and you want to show women it's not going to happen. 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 What you need to do is you need to take control over a woman the same way that you do a child. And someone's going to say, because of the things I said about my mother, well, she's just doing that because she's bitter. But remember what I told you before, what do I do for a living? I work with women and women only. And so the only way I'm able to keep control in my job, my female patients, all I deal with is 100% female patients. And I'm able to the only way I'm able to get my job done peacefully is I take control from the minute I see them. I take control over them. I shut them down. I don't let them talk. I take control. That way I can do my job. This is how I know so much about what I know, because I've dealt with women for so long. They have to be controlled like children. And I will compare this to a major company, and I won't say where I work, but I work for a major company, a Fortune 500 company. And so the way it works is our company has a CEO, we have a COO, a CFO, we have all these things. But you know what we do? We have meetings. And so sometimes we have meetings with the lower people, and they allow us to express our desires and how we want the company to go. And our CEO, he listens to that. And he takes it into consideration. And it's the same way when you're running a household. At the end of the day, the man is the CEO. And as a woman, we give our input, and it works that way in my household. I give my husband input, and he respects my opinion, and he takes it into consideration. But at the end of the day, he is the final say-so. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it goes. And what unfortunately, what women don't understand, you know how much weight that takes off of our shoulders.
She said at the end of all that, women don't realize how much weight that takes off of our shoulders. I don't know why it's taking as long as it's taking to get the listening audience, the society, to realize what has happened. We've been fighting this enemy for 8,000 years. And the thing that I've learned is it isn't the fighters, it's the non-fighters. And I had to cut this short, always because of time, but she also puts in there some coon talk. So I want to elaborate on that. Earlier in the video, she said it isn't the white woman who created the beauty standard. Black women did. Well, one of the things I also try to say to the listening audience, it's very important that you learn all aspects of whatever it is that you're doing so you can spot some deception. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it's just a lack of information. Sometimes it's just a tweak of a person's perception. You can't blame black women for their the way they feel in regards to the white standard of beauty. Of course, black women didn't create the white standard of beauty. Black women gave into the white standard of beauty. So she goes on a lot throughout the video, the original video, which I will post a link of it so you can listen to it later on your own time. But she does say a lot of coon stuff, a lot of coon talk, you know, and you got to be very careful how to weed it out. The reason why I still rock with what she's saying is because, in essence, what she's saying is fact. Now, I'm not going to say all of 100% of what she's saying is fact. All I'm saying is the meat and the potatoes, the crux of her statement. She is speaking 100% truth. Not because I agree with her, because it is. You can't argue with the fact. No matter how much you want to refute it, no matter how much you're going to sit there and say, well, I disagree. All of that is emotional. It is what it is. It's the same thing as saying, if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one around, does it make a sound? And you're going to have people that argue, well, it depends. Was anybody there? Well, it depends. Well, if nobody's there, how do you know that it makes a sound? It makes a sound because all things make a sound. So when the tree falls in your backyard, it makes a sound. So how come the tree that's in the woods, that's nobody's around, magically doesn't make a sound? You can't argue with the fact. It is what it is. However, it just may not apply to you. So I will listen to everything she has to say, but I can spit out what's irrelevant. She does a lot of coon talking. And if you're not careful, the host will coon talk with her because he's not really on his square. He was supposed to check her and say, now hold on, in context. Women gave in, women submitted to, women were defeated by, but they didn't create it. She goes on to some other coon talking points, but I don't want to bring all that in here. I need you to focus on the meats, the crust of her statement. And the crust of her statement is, you learned these things from your mother, but I'm still under the mindset 50-50. Your father contributed to this too, because same way you see me speaking out now, out loud for the public, is the same exact way I was speaking out in private. No, don't do that. No, don't have her look at that. Don't have my son. Nah, don't do that. Nah, look, I don't want my kids going back down there. What? Well, that's my side of the family too. I understand. So we're going to reduce this twice a year to once every other year. But if those coons can't get their shit together, I don't want my sons nowhere around them. That means I also have to keep them away from people I thought were possible conspirators and collaborators. I had to treat myself the same way in which I'm speaking to my wife. Keep my children far away from any fucking body, because I don't want that poison seeping in my children's head, and I must protect them. Not only must I protect them, I must prepare them for the real world. Now, there are two types of personalities that are going to disagree with this. Your first personality that's going to disagree with what this woman says, you're not supposed to agree with all of her words. I don't even agree with all of her words. But I do agree with a majority of her words, the bulk of her words. And these are the two personality types that do not agree with her words. You got a personality type that is so heavily invested in the African-centered matriarchy, they do not like anybody speaking about black women. They hate it. That's one. They're heavily invested in the African matriarchy. Number two personality type is not necessarily a mama's boy, but more or less a male that is not prepared nor ready to do the heavy lifting. And what happens, both of those are weaker males, specimens. What happens is when those males hear it coming from my mouth or another woman's mouth, those male, it's like a dog whistle. It's like hypnosis. They are hear it, and then their fighting mode is their fighting switch is turned on. Don't you say that about black women. Don't you say that. Not all black women. I hear what you're saying, but you know, not my mama. My mama wasn't like that. They will always internalize it. It's either going to be mama, grandmama, big mama, nana. Is always going to be internalized personally. I don't care where you fall on the scale. If you turn this information inward, personally, what eventually happens is you become a fighting force for the matriarchy, and you shut down any and all other male specimens that have the capability of re-establishing patriarchy. Right now you are under a matriarchy. Matriarchy serves the women, and it serves the women at the detriment and at the sacrifice of the male without the rewarding system of a male. Patriarchy does the same thing. The end result is to protect the man. The end result is to protect the women and the children. In both systems, you're trying to protect your offsprings. You're trying to protect the next generation. You're trying to protect your women and the elderly. The difference with both systems, even though they're here to protect the women, children, and the elderly, one of them rewards its males. The other one punishes its males. And in the matriarch system, It punishes its males. It sacrifices its males, and it does not reward the males. The other system, it rewards the males, and it gives the males the ability to be in control and basically have a certain dominion over women. This is what it's about. Dominion over women. And for you Bible thumpers, you know Christ is the head, God is first, Christ is second, Christ is over man, and then there's man over woman, and then it's woman over the children. For you Bible thumpers out there, unfortunately, we have ancestors that are old and ancient. So even though we're trying to reiterate a system that was already here, even though we're trying to reestablish a system that was already in place, you need to understand a system is currently in place and it is failing us. So we're going to have to go back to the way it was, because before white supremacy, racism, and the terrorist organizations and matriarchy, it was patriarchy. And we were successful because we honored the men. Honor thy father and thy mother, but we honored the men. And we didn't cross certain lines because of the men. All that's thrown out the window. This is the reason why we read. This is the reason why we study. We read and we study because we're really trying to figure out, how did we get here? How did we get here exactly? Yes, we know there were traitors. Yes, we know there were collaborators. Yes, we know there were conspirators. But how exactly did we get here? What was the turning point? And at the end of the day, there is multiple reasons of how we got here. But you also have to focus on what you can fix within your proximity, what you can fix now, what you can fix. A fat person can work on their weight. Male or female, they can work on their weight. They don't need to save a couple of $100,000 to go out there and have surgery. Saving money to have surgery takes more time and more resources versus simply watching what you eat, getting up and exercise, and being dedicated. You do what you can do with what you have. And what we have is we have recordings, we have videos, we have research, we have speeches. And the problem is matriarchy. The women are in charge and they are controlling things, and they have a warrior class that fights for them. And male and female are trying to fight to keep black heterosexual males from re-establishing their power. This is what it's all about. And the way that works is you have to keep the strong out so that the weak can stay in power. The weak do not mind going back on that plantation. The weak do not mind killing off their own kids if their child is going to be a threat to the way that they live. This is what I'm explaining. This is what this woman is explaining. What we, the listening audience, have to do is keep everything in context. Yes, she did a bunch of coon talking, but I edited it so that you can focus on where we went wrong and how we can fix it. You focus on where we went wrong and how we can fix it. And starting today, we need to make these changes. You need to get a hold of your daughters. You need to get a hold of your sons, and you need to ask them politics. You need to ask them religion. You need to ask them science. You need to ask them what's going on in that noggin of theirs. And you need to ask them, what side of the fence are they really, really on? Once you learn what questions to ask and you learn the appropriate answers to those questions you're going to ask, then you can actually start a strategy and start to figure out how to move your family in the right direction. And you must always remember, even if they're your flesh and blood, it's a great possibility they ain't coming along. It is a great possibility that they are not going to pick up what you're putting down. And you have to be content with that. Same thing with Lot, when Lot couldn't look back and they told, I think it was Sarah, you can't look back. And then Sarah turned into a pillar of salt. I'm using biblical references because I understand the listening audience. And it doesn't matter if you're a Baptist. It doesn't matter if you're Christian. Doesn't matter if you're Catholic. And it doesn't matter if you're Muslim. Doesn't matter if you're a Jehovah's Witness. The majority of you all's moral compass comes from the Bible. So I have to reference the Bible to put it in a certain kind of context and perspective for you. I am beyond the Bible. Something existed before the Bible. However, the Bible still took whatever existed before the Bible, amalgamated it, merged it together. And what you got is you got a little bit of Hindu, a little bit of Islam, a little bit of Christianity, a little bit of Catholicism, a little bit of this, a little bit of the Celtic, a little bit of that. You got a mixture of so many things in that book. But the number one premise of that book is these are rules and regulations that were established before any of you were born. And if you abide by these rules moving forward, then it's not perfect, but what you end up with is a certain form of life that protects you from the bullshit. But you're going to have to work. You just like you were working in school to get the college degree, just like you were working to get your fence up, you're going to have to work. Because when your fence is up, that hurricane is coming in 8 more months. If that fence is up and it's not up correctly, that hurricane has the possibility, the capability of knocking it down. Once that hurricane comes through and it knocks it down, you still have to go outside and get that work in to put it back up. Every descendant, every generation is going to have to put in almost the equal amount of work as the previous generation to build it. The previous generation that established it and built it, yes, they went through the hard struggle. Yes, they got it out of the mud. However, even though you no longer have to get into that cotton field and get it out of the mud, you still are going to have to do the exact same tactics, the exact same strategies it took to build it, to keep it. Yes, they took 7 days. You're going to probably take 6. This is what all this is about. I'm the one watching the videos. I'm the one reading the book, ISIS Papers by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. I'm the one going out here doing the research. Other men and women are out here doing the research. They put in the time so that when they come to you, they can give you the cliff notes. Yeah, I did 16 years of reading and writing and research. I did 16 years of reading, writing, and research, and I put it in a 500-page book. Now, it's going to take you 3 months to a year to read that. So that means that's 16 years you don't have to waste to acquire and apply the information that I'm sharing. Now, when you do that and you read that book and you get this person's experience and you get this person's lived experience and you put them all together, you should be able to address that problem better with a better result and a better outcome. You must equally fight to maintain it as well as the fight it was to establish it. And the problem is, since the boomers came in, they taught us a different way. They taught us abandonment. So when we're faced with an issue, we go, fuck that. I ain't worried about that. I mean, it ain't worth all that. So we're running around with a different construct, a different mindset. And what I'm trying to reestablish is you got to fight for everything you want to get it, and you got to fight to keep it. And you got to teach your offsprings to fight for it. Warrior class, Zoo, rise up. Warrior class, Zoo, speak up. Warrior class, Zoo, show up. Warrior class, Zoo, smoke them out. Peace and Black Power.
Fair Use Act disclaimer. This site is for educational purposes only. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research.